Good morning, Eric, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the time zone we're in today. I'm such a pleasure. We've actually known each other for a little bit, probably a year or so. We've spoken before and we've communicated through email, and we've had several sessions, which I appreciate. And I love what you're doing. Obviously, that's why I brought you on the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. So welcome officially to what they're calling themselves the LTP family. So welcome your official member of the family. And like I said, I'm really excited to just have you on and really have these conversations that are so important right now, especially now. We were having a little conversation before the recording about how the pandemic has really transformed the legal industry and all the positive things that came out of it versus all the negative things that we see on social media, on our TVs, and here on our radios. So that's really what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to have a couple of conversations about you, about Proof, and what that's all about and how it was birthed. And then, of course, paralegals, you're a big advocate, which as an attorney, we appreciate that, being a big advocate for paralegals and the hard work that we all put in. So let's get to it. I don't want to take up too much of our time. So without further ado, Eric.
Thank you so much, Etta. I have really been looking forward to this because all of those topics are near and dear to my heart. And I'm just very excited to talk about those to your listeners. I guess what I'll do first is just introduce myself. That's okay with you?
Let's do that.
Name is Eric Voogt, a longtime lawyer. I'm a litigator, have a law firm in Denver, Colorado. We have 15 lawyers, between 12 and 15 lawyers, and for almost 20 years, litigated a whole bunch of cases, including environmental class actions and lots of construction disputes. And, you know, really enjoyed that part of my career, but I also was very frustrated with, you know, the number of cases that I couldn't do, just frankly. For every case that I took, I had to, you know, decline at least 20 of those, you know, and these are cases from folks that have very just causes, but they couldn't afford my firm's hourly rate, and the contingency fee model didn't fit because although the amount at issue for the potential client was huge, it wasn't enough to take all the way through trial for our law firm or any law firm, given the complexity of the case versus the cost or versus the potential recovery. And a contingency fee, you only get a percentage of that as a law firm. So you just have to, you hear these awful stories where people are just, you know, crying out to get access to the court system, and they can't because lawyers are too expensive. And I'm not passing judgment on lawyers. It's partially the system, but there's got to be a better way. And that's why I started Proof Technology, Inc., you know, an attempt to really help lawyers and paralegals provide legal services in a more efficient manner.
Yeah, I love it. I love the concept of it. I'm sure there's other, maybe I wouldn't say similar, because I think Proof does a lot more than these other competitors out there. And guys, they're not sponsoring my podcast. This is just me being, you know, me, everything I do here, because everybody's like, are they your sponsors? I'm like, no, we're just here. We're having a conversation about literally changing the legal industry from the inside out. And I think Proof is amazing, and it's a great step forward for that change. So you want to tell us a little bit about Proof?
Absolutely.
And really what it is, and kind of really what encouraged you to create such a massive, because it is a big software, like it has a lot of things, and it includes a lot of things that other competitors out there don't even have. And frankly, I don't know if they're going to get there anytime soon. So really talk about that and how that happens.
Yeah, we certainly have a large head start over anybody else in this area. And yeah, correct. I'm not sponsoring the podcast. I'll tell you why I'm on this podcast is because I've seen you on LinkedIn and consider you a positive influencer in the legal world, as well as just an advocate for paralegals who are, frankly, the glue, the engine of law firms, and in my opinion, really the key to providing efficient legal services. So there's no financial transaction here. This is just, me appreciating what you're
colleagues having a
right.
conversation.
Yeah, we had, it's a mutual respect thing. This is not this is nothing but that. So appreciate being on and being able to talk to your listeners. So proof, talked a little bit about the vision, right? It's all about being able to provide legal services to more American small businesses. Right now, the statistics are, believe it or not, 80% or close to 80% of Americans and small and medium-sized businesses can't afford a lawyer, right? They just can't afford those hourly rates or the contingency fee. That is, in the tech business, we talk about total addressable market, right? TAM. And in the service of process industry, which is where Proof started its journey, TAM is about $4 billion. If you think about the 80% of Americans that aren't getting legal services, that's a massive market. So this should be a no-brainer, right? We should find a way as paralegals and lawyers to address that legal market, because we can all both help society by giving these folks access to courts with good legal advice, and we also can make money. It's a huge untapped market. So, right, this is a total win-win, and lawyers have to start thinking this way. So that's the vision, right? Is great technology helps lawyers and paralegals provide more affordable legal services. Our particular technology, and where we started, and where I saw a huge problem, is service of process. And Ed, I know you know what service of process is, but maybe not all of your listeners do. So I used to, when I get up in front of people and at cocktail parties, because I'm a law nerd, right? And I care deeply about the Constitution. I know you're a law nerd too.
Company.
Right. This is good. So this is why we get to chat forever. But I used to say, they'd go, what service of process? What business are you in? And I'll be like, I'm in service of process. And I'd start my speech or my discussion or my class with a photo of Andrew Hamilton, right? One of the founding fathers. And I would go into this constitutional discussion about due process of law, right? I mean, due process of law in the Constitution says that you cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. What does due process of law mean? Due process means notice and an opportunity to defend, right? Service of process is the notice part. So I'd start doing this, and people that I'm talking to at the cocktail party would run the other way because they're just so bored. So even though it means a lot to me, right? And it means a lot to the system, et cetera. So instead, you know how I start my discussions now? Have you seen the movie Pineapple Express?
Okay, yes.
Do you remember the movie Pineapple Express?
I don't.
You don't. So, you know the actor Seth Rogen, right? Your listeners will know that.
That's why I watched him.
He's hilarious, right? And so the first 5 minutes of that movie are him driving around in a Cadillac with, listening to this radio show with a trunk full of costumes in the Cadillac, and he's delivering service of process. He's putting on the doctor scrubs to get close enough to the doctor to subpoena him for trial. He's getting, he's carrying a pizza box up to the house so that they answer the door, and he hands them the legal documents. It's very funny. But when I say that now, people are like, they get it right away. So that's the business, right? That's the delivering due process is what we do. And I think the best way to explain our technology is to explain the way it's done today. And I think you'll agree with this. My law firm did a lot of construction litigation. It was not unheard of for us to have to deliver 12 sets of the complaint on 12 defendants, and they live or their companies are based throughout the US. And so our paralegals would have to get on the phone, call process serving companies in each of those locations, maybe call 3, because
Yes.
that's good practice, so that you try to get
Best
recommendations.
price.
Right, best price,
Best
best service, good recommendations. So now you're making 3 phone calls
service.
to 12 different parts of the country and negotiating that service. And then you're emailing, or we used to fax, the documents to all 12 of those service or process companies. This is just to get the documents delivered to the defendants and get the case started. And the case is going to last at least a year.
Yep.
So there's a reason the courts give you, or have forever given you, 2 months or 3 months to effect service of process. This is why justice.
Absolutely.
And this
Because
is
then you
why
got to hunt them down, right? And then how about if they're not at that address anymore because they decided to move or change their name or whatever the case is, or they're refusing service, right? Because that's not unheard of, people running away from service.
Right. And in your experience as a paralegal, you probably have had to call each of those process serving companies to get an update, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right, because you don't know what's going on. And then the person who answers the phone has to call the process server, and the process server calls them back, and then they call you back, and then you email or talk to your lawyer about what's going on with that one attempted service.
Correct.
And you've got 11 more in this case. So
on that one case, that's not even including all the other cases
you're
handling.
Probably have 25 cases, 50 cases in your on your desk, right? So that is not how we need smart people like you to be delivering legal services. We gotta cut that out of your day so you can interview clients, do some legal research, prep for trial, get the evidence together, and all that other stuff instead of service of process. So that's the status quo in this industry.
Yeah.
Do you agree? You agree that's kind of...
completely agree. I think what happens is, it's so antiquated, right? I mean, law is just, like you said, right? You made a perfect referral about Hamilton, right? That's how far back our legal system goes, and not much has been done after that, right? We've had small steps, great, right? We've had amazing societal transformations, amazing, great. I'm able to get educated, have a job, own my business. Thank you very much. I was born in the correct era. I always say that. And so I understand that we have made a lot of strides when it comes to law in general. But what we have not updated along with that is our processing, is how we work in law, how we process, develop law, how we manage our cases. We are able to work smarter, not harder. That's like my thing. That's my jam. That is the quote that I live by, both personal and professional. I'm a very time management, always happened since I was a kid. Everybody thinks that I was raised in this like military family, which I haven't. Everybody before my parents were in the military, like my grandfather and everybody served in the military, and thank you for them. But my parents themselves were never in military, but they were like soldiers. They were super organized. They knew what they had to do. Everybody played a part in this integral family. And it was just 3 of us raised in the same house, and it was great. And that's how I was raised. So that is like natural to me, but I noticed that is not natural for everybody else. Society gets in the way, right? We get a lot of obstacles. We get a lot more cases. So you graduate law school, you get your first associate or first year, position at a law firm, the law firm you want to always worked with, it's like probably a big law firm. You think you're making great money, right? Because at that time you're like, oh yeah, this is good money. Then you look at your student loan, then okay, I'm done. I've done my service, right? Now I'm going to go open up my business, my law firm, right? People don't understand that a law firm is a business, and law school didn't prepare you for any of that. Didn't prepare you how to run a business, didn't prepare you how to properly utilize your staff. I'm not even going to say a paralegal, just staff, your receptionist, intake person, legal assistant, paralegal, your staff. You need a staff. A lot of people think that a law firm can be run just by a paralegal and an attorney. And for some time that is true. But if you want your firm to really grow and progress and be fruitful and create that client experience that you so wanted, that continuous revenue without trying to hunt people down and trying to pin every little client that you possibly can, you need a staff, you need a support team, just like anything else in life. You can't do it all. And I've seen attorneys, sole practitioners, like dying, working 24/7 to try and get their cases where they need to be, making really big mistakes that are unnecessary if you have the proper staff. And I think Proof is a great solution, and other softwares, you guys integrate with a lot of other softwares as well, which is great. Very useful when you can just use one system to do everything for you.
Absolutely. You should not be leaving one system to go to another. My law firm forever had, probably 10 different systems, right? And you're just always trying to pop around and find a password and grab this information from over here and put it over here. It's really not an efficient way to do business, and no other businesses do it this way.
Right.
That is the thing for lawyers to take out of this, is that when I transitioned from a lawyer, and I still practice very limitedly, to running a technology company, the folks in the technology company think very, very different. It's all about process, technology, and efficiency, right? Now, lawyers, they just don't think that way. So we need the paralegals to do that. And I just have to give a quick shout out to my 18-year-old son, who has the same mantra in life, but I think he has a different motivation for it. You said, work smarter, not harder, right? And you're right. And law firms will be better if they work smarter and not harder, and their customers and clients will get better service at a more affordable rate if they work smarter, not harder. But my son, Mason, he says that to me all the time. I'm like, why are you not doing homework? Why are you not doing that? Because I'm working smarter, not harder, Dad. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, you're right. But sometimes I challenge my son on the way he's working smarter, not harder. So.
That's so.
So I just had to get that out there.
I love it, because that's probably my future. I have a 3-year-old son and I have a 5-year-old daughter. So somewhere in there, it's gonna happen.
You're gonna hear work smarter, not harder.
Back to me and be like, but you tell me work smarter, not harder. So yeah, I can see that happening.
You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it.
I'm totally gonna get it back in tenfold, and not in a good way.
You're gonna get it. Well, let me talk, if you don't mind. I haven't explained our technology quite yet, and all the wonderful things it's going to do for law firms. But so we talked about the status quo and all the wasted time there. And what Proof does is it allows the paralegal to drag and drop that one set of documents, the complaint and all the summons for those 12 individual defendants, into our web app, and the machine learning technology that we've developed reads those documents, pulls out the information we need. The paralegal enters the addresses for all 12, I think we said in our hypothetical 12 defendants, and hits submit. The technology checks all those addresses, and then the algorithm finds the process server that is closest, many times within a mile or two, of each of those defendants, regardless of where they are across the United States. So we have 1,500 process servers on the supply side of our marketplace, our technology, and we have 3,500 law firms across the country on the demand side of our technology marketplace.
And you can communicate with them, right?
And you can communicate.
The process server and everything.
Yeah, first it hits the process server, our mobile app on the process server's phone. They select, okay, I'll take the job. They can geolocate FedEx closest to them. Documents are there waiting for them. They flash their ID, pick up the docs, and then the law firm is tracking every attempt. So there's no phone calls to get an update. If you want the process server to try a different address, you can use the chat function, like, hey, I know he just got home from work and he's at the soccer fields. You can send a chat inside the job. So our promise to our customers is that you'll never have to send an email or make a phone call. It's all handled on a job-by-job basis in the web app on your your computer or on your phone. So you can chat directly with the process server, solve any issues. If the new address, if there's a new address, if we learn about a new address, this person has moved, then the system automatically finds the process server that's closest to the new address, and the job continues. Documents are printed at FedEx, the new process server continues the attempts, and the paralegal has to do nothing but watch all that develop in real time, all that happen on her desktop. It's very much like, you know, any of these marketplaces like Uber or Amazon or Domino's Pizza, where you
That's
can
usually what I
track
call it. I call
every
it the
step.
Uber of service.
Yeah, the Uber of service of process. That's what we've been called many times. And then the paralegal can see the affidavit get built in real time as the process server enters their attempts with geolocates, timestamps, photographs, all into the mobile app. That combines with what our machine learning scrape from the documents into a affidavit that's automatically created per the rules in each jurisdiction in the United States. And then that affidavit is the most
important part.
Yep, the affidavit is read and signed by the process server, and it appears in that job.
Awesome.
For the paralegal, and the job's done, and she or he has done next to nothing. Or we also can e-file. We also e-file for paralegals. We can e-file the complaint and summons, serve it, and then e-file the affidavit, all for the same price. So you don't need to switch from provider to provider. All you have to do is upload what you want filed and served, and it all gets done. And then when it's served, it's the affidavit of service is that's filed is provided to you in the web app.
Right. So I think all this goes back to kind of your passion about pro efficiency, right? And integration, and really making the process a lot smoother, not only for the paralegal, but for the law firm, right? Because I think at the end of the day, and I know I come across this more often than I want to, the attorneys are hesitant to invest in such services, such technology, but they don't realize the money that they're saving, because multiply everything that you just said, that would have to be done by their paralegal. So multiply that hourly rate of whatever, and I'm painting this picture to all my potential clients as well, because all my current clients know what I'm about to say. But all my potential clients out there, understand, multiply the hourly rate of your paralegal, how many hours it's going to take them to track down the process server, to get the status, to find the process server to begin with, to make sure that the service was done properly by the laws of that state and the current state and whatever ever needs to be done, especially if it's a federal service, then that's a whole different animal. So understanding that all this time, they could be actually working on that actual case and preparing your discovery and preparing your strategy and drafting emails and motions and notices and setting things up for hearing for something else. Understand that a paralegal should not be tracking down a process server. That's not really what you're paying them double, right? If you're paying them a good amount to do, right?
Oh my gosh, for
those that have like a legal assistant and a receptionist and think that that's their job, no. If you have a legal assistant or a receptionist aside from your paralegal, they should be the ones looking at that screen and making sure that everything is where it needs to be, that they're going to the correct address, that the correct documents were provided in the first place. That's their job. They're supposed to be monitoring that information. They're not supposed to actually be on the phone doing emails. That's so inefficient, and nobody should be doing that. Nobody should be trying to figure out what is going on with service, because we all know you have no case if the service is not done properly. It's going to be automatically dismissed, and hopefully you can refile depending on your jurisdiction. Sometimes you can't even do that. So understanding that it'll cost you less in the end, right? If you add everything I just set up, and
much less
that you're running.
What if the serve gets challenged, right? And with proof, everything is transparent. So you see everything that happens. So and we're adding an audio file to the affidavit. So not only will the judge have a geolocation, a timestamp and photographs, but also an audio file about the transaction at the door. So there will be no question about whether service was done, and that's going to save you an immense amount of money. I think one time 3 serves got charged or got challenged. For me, I went to a mini trial that lasted a whole day about whether service was performed correctly. It cost my client $10,000.
Yeah.
So that won't happen on our system. But I'm also going to say that our tool is free. So you don't even have to make the investment. All you have to do is pay the process service. Yeah, so there's no software to install. There's no subscription. All you have to do is go to proofserve.com, sign up, and start doing serves. And it's no investment.
Yeah. No, I think, and I love promoting software like this. And there was another software that was a software developer that was developing education on our podcast, legal accessibility for the public, right? Because although we do have access to our policies, our statutes, it's all on Google, it's all in the internet. All the states have their .gov and .org websites where you can look at all your statutes and everything else. But if you don't work in law, if you have never been introduced in law, you're not going to understand what you're reading. Yeah, okay, that's great and dandy that you provide me this, but I don't understand what a ducis decum is, what a, nobody, that's Latin, by the way, it's not even English. So understanding that even though us as legal professionals, we would understand more than the average person, yes, okay, you're giving them access, but you're not giving them reasonable access, right? Because they're not going to understand that information. So the software developer that I was speaking to on the podcast, which shout out Hyena, is they're developing a software for the public. So it'll be synopsis, non-biased, non-political. It's literally just going to break it down for someone that doesn't know, for example, what ducis decum is, what a deposition or mediation, or what that discovery process is, or, just break it down in a way where you can understand it, where anyone can understand it, really. And I think it'll not only be good for the general public, but for us. Sometimes we get caught up in thinking that we know what's happening and thinking that that's what the teacher meant or the professor or whatever the case may be. But it's gonna, so my point to this conversation, the spiel is, it's our future. It's the way legal tech is not going anywhere. It's just going to grow. It's going to make us more efficient. It's going to make our process, I guess, more streamlined, right? I know we can't streamline everything, but if we can streamline the necessities, like service of process needs to be streamlined. Access to education, that needs to be streamlined. Like everybody should have access to that. No more WebMD, right? I call it the WebMD effect, right? When you go to the doctor and you're like, I have cancer because WebMD told me I had cancer. Even though you've never taken a test and you've never done anything, you don't have any or all the symptoms or whatever the case may be. Leave it to the experts at the end of the day. There's always room for attorneys and legal professionals in general. That's what we're here for. But so that they can come in and have expectations of their own is nice. But for us to actually set those realistic expectations, I think is even more important. So letting them know, hey, this is your point of contact from the time you come in and sign up with us. You can contact them through email, through phone, through this, through that. Here's their information from these hours to this hour. I think it'll help if we have a software that does that for them, sends them an email and says, hi, I'm your paralegal. My name is blah, blah, blah. My working hours are, this is my email. This is my phone number. The best time to communicate with me is via email, 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be. All of these different types of legal tech that we've been, I guess, praying for, really, at this point. We were just hoping for one day that all this comes to fruition. Like, I'm still waiting for my Rosie from the Jetsons. And the other day I was reading about the Tesla bot. So I'm pretty excited that Rosie's about to be a reality, and the flying cars, the air car is coming. So look, my childhood dreams are finally coming true. I'm finally going to have a software that will help me work the way I need to work, right? And I'll have Rosie be cleaning my house, and then I'll have my air car because I don't want to be stuck in traffic.
This is just incredible. This is just shows how far behind the legal industry is. We have folks working on autonomous cars. We have those now. But yet, if you hire a lawyer, you have to call them for an update and wait for them to call you back, or for their assistant to set up a time 2 weeks later to give you an update on the case. And
Yes.
then it's 2 months further down the road and you got to call the lawyer. I mean, no business works
Runs
that
that way.
way. So there are some great products out there, and the pandemic has accelerated legal tech, right? Because
Yeah, I think the client portal has been the epiphany of the legal industry. Like
there you go.
client portals are amazing. And if you guys don't know what a client portal is, most of the, if not all softwares have them now, legal softwares. It's where the client has access to their filing. So whatever you've filed, they don't have any access to internal like communications or notes or anything like that, because obviously that is for the office. They don't really need to know all that. But understanding their, you know, what's been filed, what's been done, all that can be poured into the client portal. You have complete control over what can be placed in that portal. So that makes it more, you know, because I know everybody's like with the whole confidentiality, but with your client, I mean, that's your client.
Right. So it's fine. It's totally fine.
It's totally fine, guys. It's completely legal. You're supposed to let your client know what's going on.
I mean, I just can't believe that I practiced for so long without that, because every client should have access to their file at any time. It only, number one, it's going to keep phone calls limited because the answers are going to be there. Right. It's going to keep emails limited because the answers are going to be there. Some of the answers.
Right.
A client is going to be able to see all the discovery, all the affidavits, all the deposition transcripts. And if that client wants to go through all that stuff, that's only going to help you as a lawyer prepare for your case. So it eliminates a lot of the headaches of communication, provides better service to your client, and you're going to have a better trial because the client's going to be on board with everything before you get there. So you got to have a case management system with a portal. And we are integrated as proof in some case management platforms like Litify, and soon to be Clio and My Case and some of those.
Those are all my go-tos, by the way. Clio, Litify, and My Case. Those are my three. And no, guys, none of these people are sponsoring me again.
Right. I know all these folks.
I mean, you're more than welcome. Anybody, Clio, Litify. I'm okay with that. You can come and sponsor me. I'm okay with that. But as of right now, they're not. Let me just clarify that.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely. I have a lot of folks from Litify that I talk to on a regular basis, so they will see this podcast or hear this podcast, and now that we've done a shout out for them, maybe you'll have a conversation.
Oh, okay. I'm interested. Good. I'm just putting it out there lately because on my last podcast I put out TED Talks, and he happened to know somebody from TED Talks, you know, organization. So I'm like, I'm just gonna just start putting it out there, and hopefully it'll come back. You know,
I listened to that one. So I was like, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's like, oh, I would totally watch you on TED Talks. I can totally see you on there. And I was like, I mean, I am a talker, so that's kind of my thing.
You will be fine. You'll be fine on a TED Talk.
I love it. I love it.
So the way it works for proof,
right,
in its integration, I mean, it gets even more efficient, right? So, I mean, at a year paralegal by training, when you use case management software, the paralegal is going to do the intake. It's going to interview the client. Is going to start, say it's your plaintiff's firm, is going to start putting together the case, doing the investigation, gathering all the information and documents that we need to analyze, you know, our client's case.
Right.
That includes defendants' names, addresses. Right. That includes developing, you know, the complaint and the summons. And then, you know, it's kind of a pizza tracker, right? And then maybe you can't negotiate a deal with the insurance company or whoever your defendants are. And you're like, and the lawyer says, okay, now serve those documents. Yeah. In our integrations, there's just another stage in the life cycle of a piece of litigation. And it says serve documents with proof. You click on that little, that tab, and then you click on the dials for the documents you want served, and you click on the individuals whose addresses are already in there because you've added them early on in the case management stage, and you hit go. And
That's
then
right.
all the functionality, everything that happens at Proof happens through the Litify instance or the Case Spirit instance or whatever, inside of that platform. You get everything we talked about before inside of that case management platform. So you never left. You never had to go search out for any information because you're using information that you have put into the case management software for other reasons earlier on. So it is like a 5-second process, and then it's off to as many defendants as you've indicated.
Just make sure you have a great intake or data entry person.
Yeah.
Because whatever you put in the system is what's going to come out of the system.
Right.
So if you guys are, going to streamline, this is always my thing, right? I got to, put out a
garbage in, garbage
notice
out.
because it's important to understand that whatever you put into the system is what you're going to get out of the system. And I have a client attorney that says it a little differently, which I'm not going to say on the podcast, but y'all can figure that out, S in, S out. So understanding that, in order for this to actually work and actually become, to fruition, the information has to be obviously accurate, has to be no misspellings, grammatically correct, all this good stuff, right? Because understanding that even one misspelling in a name can really mess up the service.
Yeah, put it in correctly early, because then you'll never have to put it in again.
Exactly.
And if you're using the case
like intake, right? Intake should already have most of that information.
Everything's going to be in there. It's a standard process, just like you when you consult for your law firms. Make a standard process for all this stuff. Document it so that your staff follows it, and then when it comes to service a process, it'll be so much easier. But even if you have the wrong address in there, our system automatically checks it. So, and we don't charge you for, looking up addresses or anything like that. We're all about efficiency.
Which is key.
Yeah,
a lot of people charge.
We're going to find this person and we're going to help you get the best address, and we're not going to charge you for that. And we're going to get it done in a speed that you've just never experienced before.
Awesome. Well, Eric, we can literally talk forever because we are law nerds, right? That is our thing. And I love it. And I love that you brought up the Constitution, because that's what brought me into the legal industry, was my first read. Yes, I actually read the Constitution. That's how big of a law nerd I am. And I actually have a copy of the real Constitution in my bookshelf.
I have it in my backpack that I carry every day.
And I reference it every day when somebody's like, this is unconstitutional.
You're like, no,
but
not
anyway,
really.
I'm like, yeah, what page is that? Which article? Anyway, so I thank you so much, Eric. I know you're super busy, and I love what Proof has to offer. I love your brands. I love what you bring to the table, and I love that you're bringing it to the legal industry, because we need it. We need software like that. We need, and this is just a little snippet of what Proof is all about. So make sure you guys check them out. The links are on the description and in the show notes. So
yeah, and one other thing for all the listeners here, if you're interested in trying it, you can find out about us in the notes, or just go to www.proofserve.com. And you can onboard in a minute and try it. And if you put in, if you're a listener and you put in free serve, you get the first one for free. We'll deliver your documents for free, and then you're going to be hooked.
There you go. That's the best thing. Awesome. Yeah. Well, you guys heard it from the master.
Yeah. And let me give you my email address. It's eric@proofserve.com. You can always email me with any questions as well.
There we go. Thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate you coming on.
It's been such a pleasure. I love talking about this stuff.
Time with me. This was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.